It's kind of amazing how fast the whole story around a new tech can just flip, isn't it?
Totally.
I mean, think about that Google Bard demo, the one where it confidently got that James Webb Telescope fact wrong.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Big splash.
Big splash is right. That single slip-up apparently cost them, what, $100 billion in market value?
What?
Well, it really hammers home how AI promises can sort of fall apart when they hit the real world.
Mhm.
Really shows you the stakes involved in figuring out what's, genuine progress and what's maybe just hype.
You've nailed it. That Bard mess is like the perfect illustration for the book we're diving into, AI snake oil.
Mm-hmm.
The authors Narayan and Kapoor, they really stress how vital it is for us to see what AI can actually do versus its limits.
Right.
And crucially, to tell the difference between real steps forward and, well, maybe some overblown claims.
Okay, so this snake oil idea
Right.
applied to AI, what kinds of AI are we talking about specifically here?
Well, we're mainly digging into two big areas. First, you've got generative AI. That's probably what springs to mind for most people, right? Systems creating new stuff.
Like images, text.
Exactly. Generating those wild, photorealistic images. Their example was a cow in a kitchen wearing a pink sweater. Classic. Or making speech, even composing music.
Okay.
Then the second type is predictive AI. This is more about making forecasts to help guide decisions.
So, like predicting when a machine might break down or customer demand.
Precisely that kind of thing, yeah.
Got it. So the point of this deep dive really is to help you, the listener, get a better handle on all this. We want to give you the sort of vocabulary and the critical thinking tools to look at all the AI news flying around and how it might affect your life, but with a more, informed view, trying to get past the simple, it's amazing or it's terrifying takes.
Exactly, a more nuanced view. And one really pertinent argument from the book is about predictive AI. Specifically, when we try to use it to predict human behavior, they argue it runs into some really fundamental problems.
Fundamental problems.
Yeah, deep ones. They even kind of suggest that truly accurate prediction in that space might just never happen.
Whoa, okay. That is a bold claim. Predicting humans with AI might never really work. Huh. Well, let's maybe start with the generative stuff then, because honestly, even I've seen some image generators that are pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, for sure. The progress there is remarkable. The photorealistic images, the speech synthesis that sounds totally real, AI composing music. It's genuinely impressive stuff.
But the book's point is, despite how cool it looks, generative AI is still what? Immature? Unreliable.
That's the core message, yeah. It's powerful, but still kind of raw. And that makes critical evaluation super important. They highlight a few potential pitfalls. Well, flawed generative AI can create tools that just don't work well. Think about AI trying to detect essays written by other AI.
Yeah.
If it's unreliable, you could get false accusations, right?
Yeah, that's not good. And then there are the cases where it does work as planned, but still causes issues.
Exactly. The book mentions, like stock photographers potentially losing jobs because AI can whip up similar images now.
Right. And it often uses existing artist styles without, paying them or anything. That raises some big ethical questions.
Huge questions about creativity, compensation, the future of certain jobs. Absolutely. And while, sure, there are good uses like automating bits of coding, the book really pushes us to focus on understanding the limits and the potential harms. It's about being discerning, not just getting swept up in the excitement.
Okay, so if we're trying to be discerning, we need to look past just comparing AI to like human smarts. The book asks how we even decide if something is AI in the first place.
Yeah, and their approach is interesting. They suggest a couple of questions to ask. First, does the task normally need creativity or like special training if a human does it?
Okay.
If a computer can do it now, that's a pretty good sign it involves AI. Generating a realistic picture, for instance, usually takes artistic skill for a person.
Makes sense. So even things humans find easy, like recognizing a cat in a photo, which was actually super hard for computers for ages, that counts too.
Totally. That was a huge AI challenge. The second question is, was the behavior programmed step by step for every possibility? Or did it kind of emerge indirectly from the system learning patterns in tons of data? Machine learning.
Okay.
If it emerged indirectly, it's almost certainly AI, not just following explicit instructions.
So take insurance pricing. If it's a formula based on an AI analyzing mountains of old claims data to find patterns, that's AI. But maybe not if it's just a fixed set of rules some actuary wrote down.
That's basically the distinction they're making. Although they do add that Even things that are mostly pre-programmed, like some robot vacuums figuring out a room.
Yeah,
People generally still call those AI, so the line can be a bit blurry sometimes.
fair enough. Okay, let's pivot to something really meaty. Predicting the future. Humans have always wanted to do that, right? From, I don't know, ancient oracles.
So astrology charts, yeah.
And now we're kind of looking to AI as the modern crystal ball.
It's such a deep human urge, isn't it? Wanting to know what's coming. We've always had systems for it. AI is just the latest data-flavored version.
And the book kind of throws cold water on some simple ideas about data insights straight away, like that old story about beer and diapers being bought together.
Oh, yeah, they tackle that one. That anecdote pops up everywhere as proof of hidden data correlations. But turns out it's widely considered a myth.
Really?
Yeah. It just shows how easily we buy into these neat data stories, even if they're not actually solid.
Right, because predicting, say, where Jupiter will be next year is fundamentally different from predicting, I don't know, what one specific molecule in this room will do next.
Exactly. Planetary orbits, governed by well-understood physics, highly predictable. Individual gas molecules bumping around randomly, way less so.
Yeah.
There are just inherent limits.
And the authors argue predicting social stuff, human behavior is much closer to the gas molecule end of the spectrum.
That's their core argument. It's just inherently messy and complex. And they use the Fragile Families Challenge to really drive this home.
Right. Tell us about that. What was the setup?
So this was a big research project. They collected just tons of data on thousands of families tracking kids from birth up to age 9. Then they challenged researchers everywhere. Use this data to build AI models and predict 6 key things about these kids when they turn 15.
Like what kind of things?
Things like their grades in school, if the family faced eviction, serious money troubles. Pretty important life outcomes.
Okay, so tons of data, important outcomes, and the results.
Sure.
Yeah.
Pretty staggering, actually.
How so?
Despite all that data, some models used over 400 different data points per child and lots of smart people building these AIs.
Yeah.
The very best models were only slightly better than just guessing randomly.
Get out. Seriously.
Seriously. Barely better than a coin flip for predicting these major life events for teenagers. It just underscores how fundamentally unpredictable a single human life path is, even with massive amounts of data.
Wow. Okay, that really puts a dent in the whole AI predicts everything idea. So, masses of data, fancy AI, barely beats chance. Then the book brings up the compass algorithm used in the courts.
Yeah, compass. It's meant to predict the likelihood someone will reoffend. It uses, I think, 137 different data points about a person.
And its accuracy.
Also found to be only marginally better than chance. Slightly better than a coin flip again.
And it's not just predicting bad stuff that's hard, right? What about predicting success, like in movies or music? Surely that's easier.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? With talent and all that. But the book uses great examples from like Hollywood and the music industry to show how wildly unpredictable success is there too.
Like Star Wars getting rejected all over town initially?
Exactly. Or even giant studios like Disney having huge movie flops alongside their hits. There's that great anecdote about an exec joking they might as well have flipped a coin on every decision.
Huh. Yeah, I read that. Saying yes to the rejects and no to the greenlit ones might have ended up about the same.
It makes you think, right? The authors talk about this rich get richer thing in culture, cumulative advantage. What we like is often shaped by what other people seem to like. So a little bit of early, maybe random luck can get massively amplified.
Like a good review early on, or maybe just good weather on opening weekend?
Totally. And they mentioned the Music Lab experiment. Remember that? Identical songs put in different online worlds. Their popularity ended up wildly different just based on who downloaded them first, purely by chance. Shows how much social influence and randomness matter.
And then you get to social media. The meme lottery, trying to predict what goes viral.
Oh, that's even crazier. The odds are minuscule, right? Less than 1 in 100,000 tweets gets over 1,000 retweets.
Wow.
And even for the same person, one tweet explodes. The next identical one gets nothing. It's nuts. And the authors say, look, if there was a formula for going viral, everyone would use it and it would stop working instantly.
Self-defeating, yeah.
Right. Research basically says predicting tweet popularity with machine learning. Pretty much impossible. So randomness rules again.
And this unpredictability extends even to trying to predict really big, serious things like civil wars. The book mentions issues there too.
Yeah, that's a really sobering example. Apparently, researchers in that field sometimes got overconfident about AI's accuracy based on studies that, well, couldn't be replicated later.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Predicting huge societal events is just incredibly tough. You have small data sets, maybe biased data, patterns that change over time. It's a minefield.
Even something like the COVID pandemic showed these limits, didn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Predicting exactly when someone would get sick. Forget it. Impossible. But the overall spread rate, the R number that was surprisingly stable in places for periods, showing how society sort of adapted its behavior.
Right.
The big jumps in cases usually came after major disruptions, new variants, vaccines, big policy shifts, stuff that was hard to predict itself.
Okay, so given all these limitations, these examples where prediction falls short, why is the AI hype still so incredibly strong? The book spends quite a bit of time on this, right?
It does, and it's a super important question. They argue this current AI hype cycle is maybe different from past tech booms. For one, the AI research community itself has this long history, sort of a culture, of making really big promises, sometimes overly optimistic ones.
Okay, that's one factor.
Then you've got the companies building the AI. They often don't have much reason to be totally upfront about what their tech can really do, especially if it's a trade secret. Like that epic sepsis prediction tool hyped up, but not much public proof at the time.
Right, transparency isn't always incentivized.
Not at all. Plus, there's the whole reproducibility crisis in AI research. Lots of published results that other scientists just can't seem to replicate, that muddies the water.
And the media's role.
Oh, yeah. News headlines can oversimplify things, go for the sensational angle.
Yeah.
And then you have public figures, influential people, sometimes repeating the hype, talking about human-level performance when the reality might be more complicated.
And it seems like just basic human psychology plays a part, too. We just don't like uncertainty.
That's a huge piece of it, according to the book, our inbuilt uncertainty avoidance. We hate randomness, the unknown. So even a prediction from an AI that's maybe not very accurate sometimes feels better than admitting we just don't know. And this all feeds into what they call the AI hype vortex. The initial excitement leads to more hype, which leads to more excitement, kind of regardless of the actual solid progress.
They even told that wild story about an app that claimed it could get a sandwich out of a VCR, and it got like 100 million users.
Isn't that unbelievable? It just perfectly shows our fascination. We're so primed for AI magic that even something totally absurd can capture the public imagination.
Wow. Okay, so let's look at some real-world applications of predictive AI the book discusses, because some have had pretty bad outcomes, like using AI in hiring.
Yeah, they dig into that. They talk about a resume screening tool that was basically guessing personality traits from things like
Right.
whether you had a LinkedIn URL or how your resume was formatted.
Seriously, that sounds flimsy.
Totally. And what happens? Candidates just start stuffing their resumes with keywords to game the system, right? Doesn't mean they're actually better qualified.
Right, gaming the system.
Yeah.
And that welfare fraud detection system in the Netherlands, that became a huge scandal.
A terrible situation.
Yeah.
An algorithm wrongly flagged around 30,000 parents for fraud. 30,000.
Oh my God.
Caused unbelievable financial hardship, emotional distress, and guess what? Nationality was one of the factors the algorithm used. Just blatant discrimination baked in.
That's awful.
And it highlights the danger of over-automation, relying too much on these systems, with no easy way for people to appeal or correct errors. It got so bad, the entire government resigned over it.
Jeez. Okay, then there's the Compass algorithm again, and similar tools in the criminal justice system for risk assessment.
The book mentions the Public Safety Assessment, or PSA tool, cases where people were kept in jail for months, denied bail, just based on the model saying they were high risk.
But the model might not even be that accurate, as we discussed.
Exactly. And sometimes the models were even trained on data from completely different places, different counties, basically making predictions about the wrong population.
Yikes. And even in healthcare, you mentioned the Optum tool.
Yeah, that's a really troubling case of hidden bias. They used how much money a patient cost the system as a proxy for how sick they were, how much care they needed.
Okay, but why is that a problem?
Because historically, due to unequal access and systemic issues, Black patients often incurred lower healthcare costs, even if they were just as sick or sicker than white patients. So the algorithm systematically underestimated the health needs of Black patients.
Wow, so it baked in existing inequality.
Precisely. And the really concerning part, the company apparently kept using cost as a proxy even after this bias was pointed out.
That's not good. Okay, let's circle back quickly to generative AI. You said the community has a history of hype, but it wasn't always like that. There were ups and downs.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The book talks about the early days, like the 60s, huge optimism with projects like Minsky's Vision Project that didn't quite pan out as hoped. Then later, maybe the early 2000s, people kind of underestimated how fast things like image recognition would improve.
So swings between overpromising and underpredicting, they use this idea of a ladder of generality for AI. What's that about?
Think of it like
Hmm.
levels of flexibility. Each rung up the ladder means the AI system is more adaptable, needs less specific programming for new tasks. Like a simple calculator is low down. A system that can learn any game might be higher up.
Okay.
We're climbing this ladder towards AI that's maybe as versatile as humans, but the book argues we're still pretty low down.
Huh.
Generative AI is impressive, yeah, but it's not like we're about to step onto the top rung tomorrow.
So the whole idea of artificial general intelligence, AGI, arriving any minute now, the book is skeptical.
Very skeptical. They
Yeah.
argue this sudden feeling about generative AI is a bit of an illusion. It's really built on like 80 years of slow, steady progress.
Right, not an overnight thing.
And they push back on the idea that superintelligence automatically means humans become powerless. They point out that human power largely comes from our tools, our technology. AI will likely be another powerful tool that augments us.
Yeah, that makes sense. They had the interesting point about hackers already having AI tools to find software bugs for like a decade.
And the world hasn't ended.
Right.
Because the defenders, the security folks, they have those tools too. It's an ongoing dynamic.
It shifts the focus to how we use AI, good and bad, rather than just fearing the AI itself.
Exactly. Which brings us nicely to the last big topic, content moderation online. A messy, complicated area that affects almost everyone.
Ugh, yeah, content moderation. AI is often pitched as the solution there.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
And the book explains the two main AI methods used. There's fingerprint matching that's good for catching stuff that's already known to be bad, like known child exploitation images.
Okay, matching known bad stuff.
Then there's machine learning trying to spot new bad stuff,
Yeah.
new types of hate speech, misinformation, etc.
But AI runs into big problems with moderation, doesn't it?
Oh, huge problems.
Yeah.
Understanding context, nuance, sarcasm, cultural differences. AI is still really bad at that.
Yeah.
The book kind of laughs at how insanely detailed Facebook's rule book has to be because the AI just can't get the subtlety.
Yeah.
Plus, current language models, they're great at sounding plausible, but they can also just make stuff up. They're like bullshit generators, as some call them, not reliable for judging truth.
So using AI to automatically filter misinformation, risky.
Very risky.
Ah.
High potential for bias, accidental censorship, getting things wrong in ways that have real consequences for speech.
And it's not just about finding bad content, it's also about the algorithms promoting stuff, right? The recommendation engines.
That's a massive piece of the puzzle. These platforms often optimize for engagement, clicks, likes, shares, keeping you scrolling.
Right.
And the stuff that grabs attention isn't always the most accurate or healthy or valuable content. It often favors sensationalism, outrage, division. Because that stuff gets clicks.
Yeah.
Even if it's not explicitly rule-breaking, it can be amplified.
So the book talks about systems thinking for moderation. What's that mean?
It means looking beyond just, was this specific post taken down correctly? And looking at the whole system, the incentives, the processes, the structure of the platforms. Maybe thinking about things like separating the team, enforcing rules from the team, trying to maximize growth, or handle political pressure. Looking at the institutional design, not just the individual decisions.
And they touch on different models, like the big platforms versus decentralized things like Mastodon.
Yeah, briefly. Highlighting that there are different ways to approach it, each with its own challenges and trade-offs. No easy answers.
So the bottom line on moderation isn't just AI isn't good enough yet.
Not really, no. The book's conclusion is more that the failures are often rooted in the contradictions of the platforms themselves. They're trying to be giant entertainment machines and personal social spaces and global public squares, all at the same time. Those goals often clash, and AI can't magically fix that fundamental tension.
Okay. So wrapping this all up, the core message from AI Snake Oil really seems to be stay skeptical. Understand what AI can do, but be really aware of the hype, the limits, and the potential downsides.
Exactly. Maintain that critical perspective. Especially with predictive AI trying to forecast human stuff.
Yeah.
Remember the inherent randomness, the complexity. It's just really, really hard.
And generative AI, while super impressive visually or textually, is still young tech. Needs careful watching. Potential for misuse is high.
Definitely. Don't get blinded by the cool demos.
And content moderation, way more than just an AI problem. It's a deep societal challenge needing policy, institutional change, not just better algorithms.
Couldn't agree more. Which brings me to a final thought maybe for you, the listener, to chew on.
Yeah.
Given how much randomness seems baked into life, looking at things like the fragile family's results or the unpredictability of success, and seeing how purely optimizing things sometimes fails. Maybe our society's obsession with prediction and control is, well, kind of holding us back.
How so?
Like maybe focusing so much on trying to predict and control everything stops us from building systems that are just more resilient, more adaptable to the unexpected. Maybe embracing a bit more randomness, acknowledging unpredictability.